favor. When a man begins to fast, he begins to release a power called favor.
All right, today we're diving deep into a really powerful sermon from Apostle Michael Orokpo called Divine Favor Through Fasting. Now, this isn't just about fasting as a religious habit. The teaching here presents it as a kind of spiritual technology, a way to actually unlock divine power in your life. So let's get into how it all supposedly works.
Story in Esther chapter 4 verse 16. Israel was being threatened. The whole tribe was to be annihilated. And this verdict came from the throne of the most powerful king in the then world. There was nothing they could do. And to make things worse, this manipulation was an act of a gang up in the corridor of power. So there's no way they can even access the king to change the matter. The only window they had was the queen. And even the man that came to talk to the queen was hoping she will use her natural powers, like her beauty and her proximity to the king. Go to the king, touch his head, and tell him about this matter. But you see, matters of state are not settled casually. It's a law that has been passed. And to make things worse, this lady does not even have the right to go into the king until she's summoned, because it's against the law. But there was something Esther knew. In Esther chapter 4 verse 16, he said, take a 3 days fast for me. And he said, I will go into the king, which is against the law. He said, if I perish, I will perish. The reason is this: if God does not do something, if she enters there, she will perish. So she knew this was not a joke. If God does not intervene, she will perish. But she understood the potency and the efficacy of fasting. God of necessity must do something.
The sermon kicks off by throwing us right into the deep end with this quote from Queen Esther: "If I perish, I perish." You can just feel the desperation in those words. She was up against a wall, facing a threat that wasn't just about her, but about the survival of her entire people. The stakes could not have been higher. So what was this insane problem she was facing? Well, the sermon lays it out for us. You've got a death sentence hanging over her people, signed and sealed by a royal decree. And this isn't just any old king. We're talking about the most powerful ruler on earth, a king so untouchable that she, the queen, was legally forbidden from even approaching him unless he called for her. I mean, just think about how completely hopeless this situation was. It's a total lockdown, the death sentence is irreversible, the authority who passed it is unapproachable. From a purely logical, real-world perspective, there was absolutely no way out. Game over. And this is where the sermon draws a really sharp line in the sand. On one side, you have worldly power, things like your physical appearance, your connections, how persuasive you are, maybe you've got a degree from Harvard, but the argument is that this stuff has a ceiling. It hits a wall. Esther couldn't use her beauty to talk her way out of an irreversible law. She needed something from that other column, divine favor, a power that plays by a totally different set of rules.
When she was done fasting, the Bible said in Esther chapter 5 verse 1, she walked into the court. You know, I was telling them in the first service, there is beauty that is stronger than eyelashes. Foundation and mascara is good, but there is a beauty that has more power than eyelashes. You can barb the whole eyelashes and use something. There is a beauty that is superior to a glowing skin. Your skin can shine like this bulb. There is a beauty that is more power. You can't change the heart of a king with your looks. They said the heart of the king is in the hands of God. He turneth it. To turn the heart of a king, you need something more than physical beauty. The king sees every damsel in the kingdom. And so Esther knew, I may be beautiful, I may have all the perfumery, I may have the best of garments, which is good. Please look beautiful, especially those of you who are married. But there is something beyond beauty. The Bible said when she walked in, the king looked at her and turned his staff. Come. And before she ever made a statement, that's what got me intoxicated. The king said to her, what do you want? Before she answered, the king said, anything you ask, I will give you. Before she asked, the king said, even if it is up to half of my kingdom. What power is this? What do you want? At least logic and reason demands that you wait if it's something you can do, or if it's something you are willing to do. You didn't stop there. You tell her you will answer. Okay. What is going? Are you under a spell? Yes, because favor is a spell. Favor is a spell. And instantly a law was overturned. It's called the power of favor. How can a believer be stranded? We have too much advantage. We have too much advantage. We are not just tapping into it. It doesn't matter if 500 people applied. Yes, some studied in Harvard, some studied in MIT. In addition to your certificate, come with favor. Come with favor. Come with favor. By the time they judge you based on merit, they will now go into an economy that is superior to merit. It's called favor.
Secret weapon is what the sermon calls favor. So Esther's game plan wasn't about politics or trying to sweet-talk the king. No, it was a call for a 3-day fast, a spiritual act with a very specific purpose, to generate a power strong enough to shatter a law that was supposed to be unbreakable. Now, the sermon is super direct about what this favor is. It's not just a nice feeling or, a bit of good luck. It's presented as a real, tangible spiritual force. The teaching even describes it as being like a spell, something that actively compels people and situations to bend your way, completely bypassing logic or what you might deserve. So how does this actually work? Well, this quote right here is the key. The reason favor is so powerful is that it doesn't try to reason with the king's mind. It goes straight for his heart. And according to this teaching, the king's heart is in God's hands. It's a spiritual end run around the highest human authority. And the result? It was immediate and just mind-blowing. The second the king sees her, he doesn't just let her speak. Before a single word of her request comes out of her mouth, he's offering her anything she wants, up to half of his entire kingdom. The sermon points to this as the clear, almost hypnotic effect of favor in action.
Favor does 3 things. Number 1, favor opens your heaven. Luke 1:35. The angel appeared to her and said, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. You are favored among women." What caused the heaven to open was not her prayer. What caused the heaven to open was not her beauty. It was not even the fact that she was a virgin. There were many virgins in Israel, but you are highly favored. Because you are favored, an angel can be mobilized. And that was not a common angel. That was a cherubim. Such angels, they don't move carelessly. They stand before God. When he came to Zacharias, he said, "I am Gabriel that standeth before the throne of God." That's their designation. You don't send archangels. Archangels are participators in kingdom agenda because they are not just servants. They are rulers in the spirit. They are princes in Zion. The Bible said there are 12 chief princes. Gabriel is one of them. But on the strength of favor, it was not just an angel that was mobilized. It was a chief prince. This kind of angel, they can judge you even if God didn't tell them to. Because God didn't tell Gabriel to judge Zacharias. He said, "Me, I brought you a word and you doubt me, you will be dumb." That's a chief prince. But favor can mobilize them. Gabriel came into the world only 3 times in human history. They don't come anyhow. Somebody's heaven is opening this morning.
So we've seen favor blow the doors off an impossible situation. But what does it specifically do? The sermon breaks it down for us, saying this kind of spiritual discipline unlocks 3 main outcomes. So what are they? First, it opens your heaven. Second, it enables wealth transfer. And third, it commands allegiance. Let's break those down. All right, number 1, opens your heaven. The sermon uses the story of Mary. The teaching is that it wasn't just your purity that brought the angel Gabriel to her. The scripture specifically says she was highly favored. And that favor is what mobilized not just any angel, but a chief prince, a major player in the spiritual realm who gets involved when big, divine plans are in motion.
What favor does is wealth transfer. It said in Exodus 12:36, God gave favor to the Israelites and they spoiled the Egyptians. They took the wealth of Egypt by favor. Thank God for marketing. Thank God for transactions, but there's something called favor. There's a level you get to. They say, "Kai, this thing is worth 10 million. But we know you will struggle to do something, so take 20. And you are wondering, why? It's favor. It's favor. It will cost money. Money. There are people money look for. And trust me, you need a lot of money if you will prosecute the affairs of life. But favor is what makes for the possibility of wealth transfer.
The fact is called wealth transfer. The example used here is when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, the scripture says God gave them favor with the Egyptians. And what happened? The Egyptians just gave them their wealth. It's framed as a supernatural shift of resources that just completely ignores the normal rules of economics.
And finally, favor commands the allegiance of men. Not just men, but even kings. That a king will be willing to serve his own subject on account of favor. What do you want? It's only favor that will make a king ask you, what do you want to? Only favor makes that happen. And so when a man begins to fast beyond meeting a time allocation, there's something he's generating. Why do we teach these things? To create a consciousness. Because the power of God moves in the direction of your consciousness. It's not about the 6 to 12, the 6 to 3. That time of separation, something is happening to you. And when you stand up, you can be rest assured that you're left with a power. And the first of that power is called favor.
Number 3, favor commands allegiance. This brings us right back to Esther. Think about it. Favor creates a situation where a king, the most powerful man on earth, is looking at his subject and asking, "What can I do for you?" It completely flips the script on power and authority.
So, power that fasting activates is the power to rule in the realms of spirits. Spirits control the affairs of life. The earth realm is like a theater, it's like a screen in the spirit realm. The reoperation does not happen here, it only manifests here. It's like the LED screen we are watching. These pictures you are seeing are a product of a very robust circuit system that projects the impulses that is transmitted through electric current. If you assume these pictures are my son, when a phone starts ringing, he will rush because he's wondering, how did somebody's head enter this phone and he's talking? Because he assumes somebody's head is inside the phone, so he's checking to look at. It's a complex manipulation. Everything happening on earth is orchestrated first in the realms of spirit. And so for a man to be a ruler in the natural world, he must be enthroned in the spirit realm. And one of the ways you enter the corridors of power in the spirit is by fasting. Jesus called his disciples in Luke chapter 10, and he told them, "Go, cast out demons." And they went on the strength of his word, and they cast out demons and returned. And they were celebrating. Even the devils were subject to us. And Jesus didn't say anything. On another occasion, Jesus went to pray, and the same disciples went to cast out demons, and the demons will not go. And in Matthew 17, they came to ask him, "Why didn't the demon go?" And Jesus told them, "This kind," there is a this kind. He said, "This kind goeth not but by prayer and by fasting." There is a demon you will cast out because you have a revelation. There's another demon that want to find out if there is a consecration backing this your revelation. Because if there's no consecration backing this revelation, you are a talker. And one of the consecrations that demons call in the spirit to find ranking men is fasting and prayer. That's why when they went to Paul, when they went to the sons of Sceva to cast out devils, the guy looked at them and said, "Jesus we know, and Paul we also know." Because in this corridor, it's not only Jesus that is known. A man who believes in Jesus and backs it up with consecration, his name also...
Favor is a huge deal, but the sermon says that's just the first layer. There's a second, even deeper power that fasting activates, and that is the ability to gain authority and actually rule in the unseen spiritual realm. To explain this, the sermon gives us this incredible analogy. It says to imagine our physical world, everything we see and touch, as nothing more than a giant movie screen. And here's the kicker. The movie isn't coming from the screen itself. It's being projected from a hidden room, from what the sermon calls a spiritual circuit board. So the teaching is, if you want to change what's playing out on the screen of your life, you have to get into the projection room. You need authority in the spiritual realm where it's all being orchestrated in the first place. So the obvious question is, how do you do that? How do you get that kind of authority? The sermon's answer is a concept it calls consecration. It's all about earning your rank, your stripes in the spiritual world. And this is illustrated with one of the most chilling moments in the sermon. It pulls from a story where a demon is being confronted, and it says something absolutely fascinating. It says, "Jesus, we know, and Paul, we also know." You'd expect it to know Jesus, but Paul, a man? That's different. And that leads to the central question, doesn't it? How did a human being get his name known in the corridors of the spirit world? What gave him that kind of rank?
The answer, we're told, is consecration. It's defined as the spiritual weight behind your words. It's not just about what you know, your revelation. It's about the actual power backing you up. And things like fasting and deep prayer are the way you build that consecration, the very thing that gets your name recognized in that unseen realm.
And this has real-world consequences. The sermon points to when Jesus' disciples couldn't cast out a certain demon. He told them this kind only responds to prayer and fasting. See, the teaching is that the disciples had the right information, but they lacked the spiritual rank, the consecration that was needed for that specific fight. So when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway? The sermon concludes that the real goal of fasting isn't just about marking time on a calendar. It's about creating a fundamental shift in your own mind, a deep-seated consciousness that you are carrying and operating with a power that goes way beyond the physical world you see every day.
And that leaves us with one final, pretty heavy question to think about. If we really take this analogy seriously, that our physical world is just a projection, then it forces us to ask, what exactly is being programmed on our spiritual circuit board that's creating the reality we're living in right now?